The Valenthi Dominion had ruled the stars for 12,000 years. Their empire was vast and powerful. 900 star systems belonged to them. Countless species had fallen before their might. They had conquered warrior races with 4 arms and skin like stone. They had defeated hive minds that shared one thought across billions of bodies. They had even brought down beings made of pure energy. Their way was simple. Find a world. Demand surrender. Destroy anyone who refused. No species had ever resisted them for more than one galactic cycle. The Valanthi were tall beings with gray skin and 6 eyes that saw in every direction. They believed themselves to be the perfect conquerors. The universe, they thought, belonged to them by right. High Commander Vorath sat in his command chamber aboard the flagship Eternal Victory. He was old even by Valanthi standards. He had overseen the fall of 17 civilizations. His name was spoken with fear across the galaxy. When reports came of a new species discovered near the edge of explored space, he barely looked up from his meal.
"Show me,"
he said to his aide. The holographic display flickered to life. A small blue planet appeared, orbiting a yellow star. The natives called it Earth. They called themselves humans. Vorath studied the data with mild interest. The humans had only recently learned to travel between stars. Their ships used primitive fusion drives. Their weapons were laughable by Dominion standards. They had perhaps 200 military vessels protecting a handful of colony worlds. "How many of them are there?" Vorath asked. "Approximately 12 billion on their homeworld. Another 3 billion spread across their colonies." Ruth made a sound of amusement. "Send the submission ultimatum." The submission ultimatum was the same message the Dominion had sent to every species they encountered. It was simple and direct. Surrender unconditionally. Give up your worlds, your resources, your freedom. Become subjects of the Dominion, or face complete annihilation. Most species took days or weeks to respond. They would argue among themselves. They would beg for mercy. They would try to negotiate. In the end, most surrendered. The few who didn't were destroyed so completely that nothing remained but dust and memory. The human response arrived in 6 hours. Vorath's aide brought it to him with a strange expression on his face. "Hi, Commander," the humans have replied. "Already? What do they say? Are they begging for terms?" The aide hesitated. "No, High Commander. Their message is ... brief." He played the transmission. A human female appeared on the screen. She had dark hair and calm eyes. She wore a military uniform. When she spoke, her voice was steady. "This is Admiral Yuki Tanaka of the United Earth Navy. We have received your message. Our response is as follows." She paused. Then she smiled. It was not a friendly smile. "Come try." The transmission ended. Vorath stared at the empty screen for a long moment. Then he laughed. His advisors laughed with him. The sound echoed through the command chamber. "These creatures have courage," Vorath admitted. "Foolish courage, but courage nonetheless. They simply do not understand what they face." His chief advisor, a scarred veteran named Torith, nodded in agreement. "They are young, High Commander. They have never seen true war. Once they witness the power of the Dominion, they will fall to their knees like all the others." Vorath made his decision. "Send the 3rd Subjugation Fleet. 400 warships should be more than enough. Tell them to make an example of this Earth. Let the humans serve as a lesson to any other species that might dream of resistance." The orders went out across the Dominion's communication network. 400 warships began their journey toward the Sol system. Aboard those ships, Valanthi warriors prepared for what they expected to be a simple conquest. Another primitive species, another easy victory. Another world to add to the empire. What they did not know was that humans were different from every other species the Dominion had ever encountered in all the galaxy. Humans were the only intelligent beings that had evolved as persistence predators. While other species had developed speed or strength or natural weapons, humans had developed something far more dangerous. They had developed the ability to simply never stop. Their ancestors had hunted prey by following it for days until it collapsed from exhaustion. This trait had shaped everything about them. Humans did not know how to give up. The concept of surrender, of accepting defeat, was foreign to their very biology. When faced with impossible odds, they did not flee or submit. They fought harder. More importantly, humans had spent their entire existence fighting the most dangerous enemy in the universe, themselves. Their history was written in blood. Wars upon wars upon wars. They had developed weapons and tactics and strategies that no other species had ever imagined, because no other species had ever needed them. The Volanthi conquered other species. Humans conquered themselves over and over again. And each time, they became more deadly. But there was one more thing the Volanthi did not know. In the ancient archives of 100 dead civilizations, there existed a warning. It was written in languages long forgotten. It appeared on monuments buried beneath the ruins of worlds that had tried to conquer Earth's region of space, thousands of years before humans even existed. The warning was always the same, written in different words, but carrying the same meaning. Beware the Death Worlders. Earth was a death world. Its gravity was crushing. Its weather was violent. Its animals were deadly. Its diseases were countless. Every creature that evolved there was a survivor of millions of years of brutal competition. And humans were the most successful survivors of all. The ancient races had seen what lived on Earth. They had watched from afar as humans tamed fire, and split atoms, and reached for the stars. And they had left their warnings, hoping that someone would listen. The Volanthi had never bothered to read them now. 400 warships sailed through the darkness between stars, carrying warriors who expected an easy victory. They joked about how quickly the humans would fall. They made bets about how many days the conquest would take. None of them understood that they were not sailing toward a conquest. They were sailing toward the beginning of the end, and somewhere on Earth. Admiral Yuki Tanaka stood on the bridge of her flagship, watching the stars. She knew they were coming. She knew her fleet was outnumbered nearly 7-1. She knew that by every logical measure, humanity should have no chance. But she also knew something the Volanthi did. Not humans had never let logic stop them before. She turned to her crew and spoke the words that would echo through history. They think we are weak because we are small. They think we are beaten because we are outnumbered. Let us show them what happens when they mistake kindness for weakness and peace for surrender. Let us show them why the galaxy should have feared us all along. The war was about to begin, the third subjugation. Fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Sol system. 400 Volanthi warships spread across the darkness like a swarm of metal locusts. Each ship was larger than anything humanity had ever built. Each one carried enough firepower to burn a city to glass. Fleet Commander Draxus stood on the bridge of his flagship and looked at the tactical display. The human fleet appeared as tiny blue dots. He counted them twice because he could not believe the number. 63. Ships. Draxus made a sound that might have been laughter. Is this truly all they have? This is not a fleet. This is barely a patrol. Its officers shared his amusement. They had expected at least some challenge. This would be over before it truly began. Open a channel, Draxus commanded. Let them hear their doom. His voice boomed across the void of space. Humans of Earth. This is Fleet Commander Draxus of the Volanthi Dominion. You have been given the chance to surrender peacefully. You refused? Now you will learn the cost of your defiance. Lay down your weapons and disable your ships. Any resistance will be met with complete destruction. The response came quickly. It was the same human female from before. Admiral Tanaka, Fleet Commander Draxus, she said. Her voice was calm, almost pleasant. Thank you for coming all this way. I have a message for you and your masters. She leaned forward. We are humanity. We do not kneel. We do not surrender. We do not break. And we absolutely do not forget. She smiled that same cold smile. Welcome to our home. We have been waiting for you. Transmission cut off. Draxus felt something strange, an emotion he had not experienced in centuries. He could not quite name it. His second officer noticed his hesitation. Commander, Your orders. Draxus pushed away the odd feeling. All ships attack formation. Destroy them. 400 warships surged forward, their weapons charged with deadly energy. Victory seemed certain. Then the humans did something unexpected. Instead of forming a defensive line, instead of protecting their homeworld, the human ships scattered. They flew in every direction like frightened birds. The Velanthi fleet pursued, breaking formation to chase the fleeing vessels. That was their first mistake. The scattered human ships suddenly turned. They were not fleeing. They were positioning themselves. From every angle, they attacked. Small groups hit isolated Velanthi ships. They struck fast and hard, then vanished before the enemy could respond. Human pilots flew like nothing the Velanthi had ever seen. They pushed their ships beyond safe limits. They performed maneuvers that should have torn their vessels apart. When their weapons were empty, they did not retreat. They rammed their ships into enemy shields, but they did not die. At the last moment, they ejected. Tiny pods flew clear of the explosion. Rescue drones collected them. And within hours, those same pilots were back in new ships. Fighting again. The Velanthi had never seen anything like it. On the third hour of the battle, Admiral Tanaka ordered the boarding party's Velanthi ships were not designed to be boarded. Their airlocks were heavily defended. Their corridors were protected by automated weapons. No sane species would attempt such a thing. Humans were not entirely sane. Marines in armored suits cut through enemy hulls with plasma torches. They fought through breaches that exposed them to the vacuum of space. They engaged Velanthi warriors in close combat, where the aliens had every physical advantage, and still they came. The Velanthi were stronger. The Velanthi were faster. The Velanthi had 6 eyes that saw in all directions and 4 arms that could tear a human apart. But humans had something that Velanthi did not understand. Humans had thousands of years of practice at being the underdog. Every human child grew up on stories of small forces defeating mighty empires. Every human soldier believed, truly believed, that courage and determination could overcome any obstacle. It was irrational. It was illogical. And it was terrifying. By the 5th hour, the Velanthi fleet was in chaos. Ships that had been captured from the inside turned their weapons on their former allies. Human engineers had figured out how to operate Velanthi systems in the middle of combat. Human soldiers learned to use alien weapons by watching their enemies. Fleet. Commander Draxus watched his forces crumble and could not understand what was happening. His ships were superior. His warriors were better trained. By every measure, he should be winning. But humans did not fight by measures. They fought by will. The 6th hour decided everything. Draxus gave the order he had never expected to give. Retreat. The proud 3rd Subjugation Fleet fled the Sol system. Of 400 warships, only 47 remained. They limped back toward Dominion space, carrying survivors who could barely speak about what they had witnessed. Draxus himself was among the survivors. He sat in his damaged command chair and wrote his report to High Commander Vorath. His hands trembled as he formed the words. The humans are insane. They do not fight to win. They fight to make you lose. They do not fear death. They consider it simply another obstacle to overcome. They adapt faster than any species I have ever encountered. What took us centuries to develop, they learned in hours by studying our own technology. He paused, then added one final line. We did not fight a fleet today. We fought a force of nature. And I do not know if the Dominion can survive what we have awakened.
Like on Earth.
The celebrations lasted only one night. Admiral Tanaka stood on the observation deck of the rebuilt Defiance. Looking down at the blue and green world she had sworn to protect, the lights of cities sparkled across the night side. Children who would never know. How close they had come to slavery were sleeping peacefully in their beds. Her second-in-command joined her. We did it, Admiral. We actually did it. But Tanaka did not smile. We won a battle, not a war. But the Dominion. The Dominion has ruled for 12,000 years. They have 900 star systems. Resources we cannot imagine. Fleets we have not seen. She turned to face him. They sent 400 ships because they thought we were nothing. When they learn we destroyed their fleet, they will not send 400 ships again. She looked back at Earth. They will send thousands. And they will not stop until one of us is gone. Her officer fell silent. We have shown the galaxy that humans can fight, Tanaka continued. Now, we must show them that humans can survive. And for that, we will need more than courage. We will need allies. We will need time. We will need to become something the Dominion has never faced. She straightened her uniform. The war has just begun, and we have just announced to the universe that we are the most dangerous species they have ever encountered. Now we have to prove it. Across the Dominion, the message spread. The humans had won. The impossible had happened, and in the hearts of countless subjugated species, something began to stir hope. High Commander Voreth received the news of the Third Fleet's destruction in silence. His 6 eyes moved slowly across the report. His 4 hands gripped the edges of his command throne until the metal groaned. 40-7 ships. From 400, his advisors stood before him, waiting for his reaction. None of them dared to speak. They had seen Voreth angry before. They had seen him destroy entire species in his rage, but they had never seen this expression on his face. It was not anger. It was something worse. It was doubt, Voreth said quietly. When he was alone, he pulled up the recordings from the battle. He watched human ships dance through space like living things. He watched human soldiers fight with a ferocity that made his own warriors look tame. He watched officers make decisions in seconds that should have taken minutes to calculate. For the first time in his long life, Voreth felt the cold touch of fear. But he was not High Commander for nothing. Fear was just another enemy to be conquered. He had faced impossible situations before. He had always found a way to win. He summoned his council. We underestimated them, he admitted. We will not make that mistake again. Assemble the Grand Armada. 4,000 ships. Every weapon we possess, we will crush these humans with overwhelming force. His advisors nodded eagerly. 4,000 ships. No species could stand against such power. It would take 3 months to assemble such a fleet. 3 months for ships to gather from across the Dominion. 3 months to load supplies and prepare for the long journey. 3 months that humanity used very, very well. On Earth, scientists worked in shifts around the clock. They studied captured Volanthi technology with desperate intensity. Sleep became a luxury. Food was eaten at workstations. Families went weeks without seeing each other. A human physicist named Dr. Sarah Chen cracked the secret of Volanthi shield technology in just 3 weeks. When her colleagues asked how she did it, she laughed and said, "I imagined what would happen to my children if I failed." Human engineers rebuilt their ships. They combined their own designs with what they learned from the enemy. The new vessels were neither human nor Volanthi. They were something new, something better. Human factories converted to war production. Car plants built fighter craft. Electronics companies manufactured targeting systems. Every industry, every business, every person contributed what they could. But Admiral Tanaka knew that technology alone would not save them. She remembered something her grandmother had told her long ago. The strongest warrior is not the one who fights alone. The strongest warrior is the one who makes others believe they can fight too. The Dominion had conquered many species over 12,000 years. 17 intelligent races lived under Volanthi rule. They had surrendered because they thought they had no choice. They had accepted slavery because they believed resistance was impossible. Now, they knew it was not impossible. Tanaka sent messages to every subjugated world. They were simple messages. No grand promises. No requests for military aid. Just words. We are still standing. You can stand too. The Krell were the first to respond. They were a reptilian species, cold-blooded and practical. They had surrendered to the Dominion 8,000 years ago. They had served loyally ever since, but they had never forgotten what freedom felt like. Their leader, scarred old warrior named Vess, contacted Tanaka directly. "Why should we trust you?" he asked. "Humans are young. You may have won one battle by luck. The Dominion will destroy you in the end." Tanaka smiled. "You're probably right. The odds are against us. We are outgunned, outnumbered, and outmatched in every way. Ves blinked his yellow eyes. Then why do you fight? Because some things are worth fighting for, even when you cannot win. Because our children deserve the chance to be free. Because we would rather die standing than live on our knees. There was a long silence. You are insane, Ves said finally, as Tanaka agreed. We are. Ves made a sound that might have been a laugh. I think I like you humans. The Krell will fight. The Morthani joined next. Then the Sealan. Then a dozen other species, some contributing ships, some contributing soldiers, some contributing only information. But every contribution mattered. When the Grand Armada finally arrived at Seoul, they found something unexpected. 300 ships flew to meet them. Human vessels mixed with Krell cruisers and Morthani destroyers. A dozen different species, a dozen different technologies. All united under one flag. Fleet Admiral Yuki Tanaka broadcast to the entire system. This is the Coalition Fleet. We represent not just humanity, but every species that believes in freedom. You wanted to make an example of us. You wanted to show the galaxy what happens to those who resist. Congratulations, you succeeded. She paused. Look at us. Look at how many have joined us. Every world you conquered, every species you enslaved, is watching right now. And they are waiting to see what happens when the mighty Dominion faces people who are not afraid to die. The Battle of Seoul lasted 18 days. It was the largest battle in galactic history. Ships burned in every corner of the system. Warriors of 20 species fought and died alongside each other. The sun itself seemed to dim behind the clouds of debris. Humanity lost half its fleet. The Krell lost even more. Millions died on both sides. There were moments when defeat seemed certain. When the coalition lines broke and Velanthy ships pushed toward Earth itself, but always, someone rallied. A human captain who charged her damaged ship into a gap in the line. A Krell warrior who held a boarding action alone long enough for reinforcements to arrive. A Morthani engineer who jury-rigged a weapon that should not have worked and used it to destroy. 3 enemy cruisers. They did not fight because they were confident of victory. They fought because they refused to accept defeat. On the 18th day, the Grand Armada broke. 4,000 ships had come to crush humanity. Less than 800 fled back toward Dominion space. Across the galaxy, the news spread like fire. The Dominion had lost again. And this time, it was not just humans who had defeated them. On 100 worlds, rebellions began. Species that had been quiet for centuries rose up against their masters. Not because they thought they could win, but because they had seen others try and they wanted to try too. High Commander Vorath received the reports in his darkened chamber. The Elder Council was convening. For the first time in 1,000 years, they would meet to discuss what no one had ever imagined possible. The fall of the Dominion, and in the center of it all, humanity stood, bloodied but unbroken. Having done exactly what they said they would do, they had made the galaxy believe. The Elder Council met in a chamber that had not been opened in 1,000 years. 12 ancient Velanthi sat in a circle, their gray skin wrinkled with centuries of age. They were the true rulers of the Dominion, the ones who made decisions that shaped the fate of civilizations. High Commander Vorath stood before them, waiting for judgment. 2 fleets, the eldest of them said. His voice was like dry leaves scraping against stone. We sent 2 fleets against these humans. Both were destroyed. Our empire, built over 12,000 years, is now crumbling. Rebellions spread across our territory like disease. Vorath lowered his head. The humans are unlike anything we have faced. They do not fight like rational beings. They do not silence. The elder raised one withered hand. We did not summon you for excuses. We summoned you for solutions. Another council member spoke. We cannot afford to send another fleet. Our forces are needed to suppress the rebellions. If we weaken our hold on our current territories, we will lose everything. Then we must end this war another way, a third elder said. Cut off the head, and the body dies. All eyes turned to him, he continued, his 6 eyes gleaming with cold intelligence. The humans fight because they have leaders who inspire them. This Admiral Tanaka, they're government officials, they're generals. Remove them, and the human resistance will collapse. More importantly, their allies will see that following the humans leads only to death. Vorath understood immediately. An assassination strike. It's not just any strike, the elder said. We will send the Silent Ones. Even Vorath felt a chill at those words. The Silent Ones were the Dominion's most deadly assassins. They had killed kings and emperors. They had toppled governments without ever being seen. They were ghosts that brought death wherever they went. Are you certain? Vorath asked. The Silent Ones have never failed, but they have also never faced humans before. The eldest council member made a dismissive gesture. The humans are soft creatures. They hide their leaders behind walls and guards like all other species. The Silent Ones will find them, kill them, and disappear. Without their leaders, the humans will fall into chaos. The war will end. Orders were given. The Silent Ones were dispatched. 12 of the deadliest beings in the galaxy slipped into human space. They wore technology that bent light around them, making them invisible. They moved without sound. They killed without trace. Their targets were simple. Admiral Tanaka, Secretary General Marcus Webb, General Chen, Commander of Ground Forces. Kill these 3, and humanity would lose its direction. The Silent Ones reached Earth without being detected. They slipped past defenses that should have been impenetrable. They moved through crowds of humans who never knew death walked among them. The first assassin reached Secretary General Webb's compound at midnight. It studied the security patterns, identified the weaknesses, and began its approach. It never reached its target, eh? Cleaning woman named Maria Santos was mopping the hallway outside the Secretary General's office. She was 63 years old. She had worked in that building for 30 years. She knew every corner, every shadow, every sound that belonged there, and she heard something that did not belong. A whisper of movement, a shimmer in the air that was not quite right. Maria did not hesitate. She did not run for help. She did not try to sound an alarm. She swung her mop handle with all her strength. The blow connected with something solid. The Silent One's invisibility flickered. For just a moment, the assassin was visible, a creature of shadows and blades. More nightmare than living being, Maria screamed. Not in fear, but in warning. Guards came running. The Silent One, its surprise attack ruined, fought its way out of the building. It escaped, but its mission had failed. Across the planet, similar scenes played out. A janitor in the military headquarters noticed a door that should not have been open. He triggered an alarm instead of investigating alone. A cafeteria worker saw a strange shimmer near the food service line and threw a pot of boiling water at it. A retired soldier, visiting his daughter at the Admiral's residence, noticed footprints appearing in fresh snow when no one was visible. He tackled the empty air and found himself wrestling with death itself. The Silent Ones were the greatest assassins in the galaxy. They had never failed a mission, but they had never faced a species where every single person considered themselves responsible for the survival of their people. Other species protected their leaders with professional guards. Humans protected their leaders with everyone. Of the 12 Silent Ones sent to Earth, only 3 survived to report back, and they brought strange news in fighting the humans. In being captured and interrogated, they had revealed something valuable. The location of the Dominion's hidden command network, the secret communication hubs that coordinated all Valanthe military operations. The humans had been searching for these locations for months. Now, they had them. And that was when Vorath understood the truth. The humans had not just been defending themselves, they had been planning, preparing, building for 6 months. While fighting off fleets and surviving assassination attempts, humanity had been creating a network of spies and agents throughout Dominion space. Krell operatives gathered intelligence. Morthani infiltrators planted themselves in key positions. Human special forces trained in secret for a mission that would change everything. Operation. Launched on a single night, 17 critical Dominion facilities were hit simultaneously. Communication hubs went dark. Supply depots exploded. Shipyards were sabotaged. In one coordinated strike, the coalition crippled the Dominion's ability to coordinate its forces, but that was not the main attack. A small team of human special forces, aided by allies from a dozen species, struck at the heart of the Dominion itself. They infiltrated the capital world. They fought their way through defenses that had never been breached, and they delivered a message that every citizen of the Dominion could hear. Admiral Tanaka's face appeared on screens. Across the Empire, people of the Dominion, enslaved species of 100 worlds. Your masters tried to kill our leaders in the shadows. They failed. Now we bring our message into the light. She stood among the ruins of a Volanthi command center, coalition soldiers at her back. Your empire is falling. Not because we are stronger than you, but because you've built your strength on fear, and fear is not enough. We offer you a choice. Continue to fight for masters who see you only as tools, or join us in building something better. She leaned forward. The war is not over, but the Dominion has already lost. You just don't know it yet. The transmission ended, and across the galaxy, the universe held its breath, waiting to see what would happen next. The Volanthi capital burned, not from weapons fire, but from the flames of a dying empire. Riots filled the streets as different factions fought for control. Military commanders turned against each other, each one claiming to have the answer to the crisis. Supply lines collapsed. Communications failed. An empire that had stood for 12,000 years was tearing itself apart. High Commander Vareth stood at the window of the Elder Council's chamber, watching the chaos below. His 4 hands hung limp at his sides. His 6 eyes were dull with exhaustion. Behind him, the Elder Council argued. "We must fight on," one of them insisted. "We still have ships. We still have warriors. We can retreat to our core worlds and rebuild." With what resources? Another snapped back. "Half our territory is in open rebellion. The species we conquered are rising against us everywhere. Even our own people are losing faith. Then we crush the rebellions. We burn every world that defies us. We show them the cost of resistance." "You fool. That is exactly what brought us to this point." Borith turned from the window. "Enough." The council fell silent. "I have spent my entire life conquering others," Vorath said slowly. "I have destroyed civilizations. I have broken species. I believed that power was everything. That strength was all that mattered." He looked at each council member in turn. "I was wrong. The humans taught me something. True strength is not the ability to destroy. It is the ability to endure. And they have endured everything we threw at them." Eldest council member spoke. "What would you have us do? Surrender? We have never surrendered in 12,000 years. Perhaps that is exactly why we should." Before the council could respond, an aide rushed into the chamber. "High Commander, the coalition fleet has arrived. They are at our doorstep." Vorith nodded slowly. "How many ships?" "Over 2,000. Humans, Krell, Morthani, Ceylon, and a dozen other species. They are demanding to speak with the council." The eldest council member rose from his chair. Despite his age, despite everything, he still carried himself with dignity. "Then let them speak. We will hear what they have to say." The holographic communication system activated. Admiral Tanaka appeared before the council, but she was not alone. Standing beside her was a human woman in civilian clothes. Her hair was streaked with gray. Her eyes were kind but strong. "I am Ambassador Sarah Chen," the woman said. "I have been authorized to negotiate terms with the Volanthi Dominion." "Terms of our destruction, you mean?" one council member muttered. Ambassador Chen shook her head. "No. Terms of peace." The council stared at her in disbelief. "You have attacked us, tried to enslave us, sent fleets to destroy our world, sent assassins to murder our leaders. You have killed millions of our people." She paused. and yet we are not here for revenge. The eldest council member leaned forward. Then what are you here for? To offer you something you never offered anyone else? A future. The ambassador stepped closer to the camera, her face filling the screen. For 12,000 years, you built your empire on fear. Every species you conquered, every world you absorbed, you ruled through terror. And look where it has brought you. Your people are fighting each other. Your subjects are in rebellion. Your empire is falling apart. She let those words sink in. We are not here to replace your tyranny with ours. We have seen where that road leads. Our own history is full of empires that rose through conquest and fell through their own cruelty. We have learned from those mistakes. Then what do you want? Vorath asked. Join us, Chen said simply. Not as subjects. Not as conquered people. As equals. Help us build something that has never existed before. A true galactic community. Where species work together instead of fighting. Where disputes are settled through negotiation instead of war. Where every being has the right to be free, and our crimes. The eldest council member asked, the species we conquered? The worlds we destroyed? Do you expect us to simply forget? No, there must be accountability. There must be justice. Those who committed atrocities will face trial, but we will not punish an entire species for the actions of its rulers. We will not become the very thing we fought against. Vorath stepped forward. Why? After everything we have done to you, why would you offer mercy? Ambassador Chen smiled. It was a sad smile, full of weight and memory, because we have spent our entire history destroying each other. We have seen empires rise and fall. We have watched civilizations burn themselves to ash in the name of revenge. And we decided a long time ago that we wanted to be better. She looked directly at Vorath. We fight so hard, not because we love war. We fight so hard because we love what we are fighting for. And what we are fighting for includes the chance to be better than we were. To build instead of destroy. To heal instead of harm. She spread her hands. This is your chance to be part of that. To prove that even those who once spread darkness can choose to walk in the light. The council chamber was silent. Vorath thought of all the species he had conquered. All the civilizations he had destroyed. All the suffering he had caused. For the first time in his long life, he felt something unfamiliar. Shame, but alongside the shame, he felt something else. Something he had not experienced in centuries. Hopi turned to the Elder Council. We must vote. One by one, the ancient Volanthe cast their votes. The weight of 12,000 years of history pressed down on each decision. When Vorath's turn came, he thought of the human woman on the screen. She had watched her people nearly be exterminated. She had lost friends, family, loved ones, to Volanthe weapons. And yet she stood there, offering peace. He cast his vote. The result was unanimous. 1 year later, the Galactic Coalition was officially formed. Humans, Volanthe, Krell, Morthani, and 30 other species signed the founding document together. It was not a perfect union. There were arguments, disagreements, old wounds that would take generations to heal. But it was a beginning. 50 years after that, a memorial stood on Earth's moon. It bore the names of every being who had died in the war. Human names. Krell names. Morthani names. And yes, Volanthe names too. Because in the end, they had all fought and died together. Above the names, an inscription was carved in 100 languages. We are not defined by how we fight, but by what we build after the fighting ends. And below that in smaller letters. A phrase that had become the Coalition's motto, came from the stars as enemies. We leave them as family. In schools across the galaxy, young beings learn the story of the war. They learned how a small species from a tiny blue planet had looked at an ancient empire and refused to kneel. They learned how that defiance had sparked a revolution that changed everything. But the most important lesson was not about war. It was about what came after. Because in the end, humanity's greatest victory was not defeating the Dominion. It was convincing the galaxy that everyone deserved a chance to be better. And that was a victory that would last forever.